The scream didn't sound human at first. It rose from the snow like something thawing too quickly, ragged, wet, torn loose from a throat that had forgotten how to ask for help. Officer Eli Mercer froze mid-step, his breath stalling inside his chest, while his K9, Ash, locked rigid at the end of the leash. The night swallowed the sound almost as soon as it came, leaving only the hush of falling snow and the distant creak of trees under ice. In that moment, Eli understood something terrible. Whatever had screamed out there had been waiting a long time to be found, and it wasn't done yet. If you find yourself drawn into stories like this, following them chapter by chapter as the truth unfolds, you're welcome to stay with it. Some nights deserve witnesses. The call came in just after 11:40 p.m., when the town of Alder Ridge had already folded itself into sleep. Eli Mercer had been finishing paperwork, routine citations, a domestic that ended with two people promising too much, when dispatch cleared her throat in that way that meant something was wrong but undefined. "Unit 3, she said, voice low. "Possible disturbance near Old Mill Road. Caller reports, screaming. No visual. Line went dead." Old Mill Road ran north, threading into state forest, and then nothing. No houses past the snowline marker. No cell service once the road dipped. Eli looked down at Ash. The German shepherd lifted his head, amber eyes alert, as if he'd heard the word screaming even through the radio. Ash had that way about him, reading intention, not language. Eli clipped the leash to his harness and stood. "I'm en route," he said. The cruiser's headlights cut through snowfall thick as ash from a fire. The wipers struggled, squealing across the glass. Eli drove with both hands tight on the wheel, jaw set, the familiar weight of the badge pressing against his chest. 3 years in Alder Ridge had taught him one thing: the town didn't waste screams. People here kept pain quiet. When sound broke the rules, it mattered. Old Mill Road narrowed, unplowed beyond the county marker. Eli parked where asphalt surrendered to white and killed the engine. Silence rushed in, sudden and heavy. He opened the back door. Ash jumped down, paws sinking into the snow, nostrils flaring. The dog's body tensed, not fear, but focus. That, more than anything, made Eli uneasy. "Track," Eli said softly. Ash moved forward immediately, nose low, pulling toward the tree line. The leash went taut. Snow crunched under Eli's boots as they crossed into the forest, the cruiser's lights disappearing behind them like a receding memory. The woods smelled sharp, pine, cold metal, something faintly rotten beneath it all. Eli adjusted his flashlight, the beam slicing through branches glazed in ice. Every sound echoed too loud: breath, fabric, heartbeat. "Easy," he murmured, more to himself than to Ash. They hadn't gone 50 yards when Ash stopped dead. Eli nearly stumbled into him. "What is it?" Eli whispered. Ash didn't bark, didn't growl. He lowered himself into a crouch, ears pinned forward, eyes fixed on a stand of birch trees ahead. Then Eli heard it again. Not a scream this time. A sound closer to a whimper, thin, broken, like air leaking from something punctured. It came from the ground. Eli's stomach tightened. He followed the sound, flashlight trembling despite his grip. The snow ahead was disturbed, drag marks, half-filled footprints, something heavy moved without care for direction. The beam caught a flash of color beneath the white. "Red." "No," Eli breathed. He knelt, gloves already soaked through as he brushed snow aside. A hand emerged, blue-tinged, fingers curled stiffly inward. A woman's hand. A thin bracelet encircled the wrist, silver, engraved with something too small to read. The whimper came again. "She's alive," Eli said, disbelief cracking his voice. Ash let out a low, urgent sound, pressing closer. Eli cleared more snow, working fast, pulse hammering. The woman's face was partially buried, lips split, eyes fluttering beneath lashes rimed with frost. Blood darkened the snow around her mouth. "Hey," Eli said gently. "You're okay. You're safe now." Her eyes opened. They were wide with something beyond fear. Recognition, maybe. Or warning. Her mouth moved. Eli leaned closer, heart pounding. "Don't," she whispered. Then she screamed. Not loud. Not long. Just enough to carry. From deeper in the woods, something answered. A branch snapped. Ash spun, teeth bared, body between Eli and the trees. Eli drew his weapon. "Sheriff's office," he shouted into the dark. "Show yourself." Silence followed, but it wasn't empty. It was listening. Eli's radio crackled at his shoulder. Static. No signal. "Back up," he muttered. "Come on." The woman's breathing turned shallow. Eli pulled off his coat, draped it over her, hands shaking now despite training. He needed EMS. Needed help. Needed. Ash lunged suddenly, barking sharp and violent. Eli turned just as a shape moved between the trees. Too tall. Too still. "Stop!" Eli yelled. The shape didn't run. Didn't approach. It stood there, pale against the dark, just long enough for Eli to realize it was watching the woman, not him. Then it was gone. Ash strained after it, snarling, leash jerking hard enough to burn Eli's palm. "No!" Eli snapped, forcing Ash back. "Stay." The woods fell quiet again, as if nothing had happened. Eli swallowed, chest tight. He looked down at the woman. She was crying silently now, tears freezing on her cheeks. "He's still out there," she whispered. "He said you'd come." Eli stiffened. "Who did?" he asked. Her eyes locked onto his, pupils blown wide. "The one who screams for help," she said. And then she passed out. Eli didn't remember calling for medevac, only that his voice sounded wrong in his own ears, too calm, too measured, like someone else had taken over. He kept his gun raised until the thump of rotor blades shattered the forest and floodlights washed the trees in blinding white. By the time paramedics loaded the woman onto the stretcher, Ash was still pacing, hackles raised, eyes tracking the darkness beyond the light's reach. Eli knelt beside him, resting a hand on his back. "What did you smell, boy?" he whispered. Ash didn't look at him. He stared into the woods and growled low, steady, like a warning meant for something that already knew it had been seen. At the hospital, they told Eli the woman's name was Mara Klein. 29. Reported missing 14 months ago from 2 towns over. The cold had slowed the bleeding. Another hour and she would have been gone. She kept saying something in the ambulance, the EMT told him. Wouldn't stop. "What?" Eli asked. The EMT hesitated. "That the snow listens. And it remembers." Eli drove back toward Alder Ridge alone, dawn threatening the horizon with pale gray. His reflection in the windshield looked older than it had 12 hours earlier. At a red light, the only one in town, his phone buzzed. A text from a blocked number. "You shouldn't have followed the dog." Eli's hands tightened on the wheel. Behind him, in the back seat, Ash let out a single uneasy whine. By the time Alder Ridge woke up, the story had already been sanded down to something safer. A woman found alive. Exposure. No suspects. An unfortunate miracle. Eli heard it repeated twice before noon, once by a cashier at the gas station, once by a county deputy who didn't quite meet his eyes. The words traveled fast, but the details stayed strangely contained, as if the town had agreed on what not to ask. At the sheriff's office, the air felt heavier than usual. Old coffee. Damp wool. Paper that had been handled too often by the same cautious hands. Sheriff Rowan Pike stood at the mapboard, arms folded, his silhouette framed by pins and red thread that never seemed to connect to anything useful. He was a big man with a quiet voice, the kind of authority that didn't need to rise to be obeyed. He'd been sheriff longer than Eli had lived in Alder Ridge. "You should have waited for backup," Rowan said without turning around. "There was no signal," Eli replied. "And she was buried alive." Rowan nodded once, slowly, as if weighing the sentence. "Still, you went in deep. Alone. With Ash." Rowan turned then, eyes sharp but unreadable. "Dogs can't testify." Eli felt something tighten in his chest. "No. But victims can." Rowan held his gaze a moment too long, then looked away. "She's stable. Won't be questioned today." "Why not?" "Because she's traumatized," Rowan said evenly. "And because this isn't your case." The words landed harder than Eli expected. "With respect, sir, I found her. And you nearly got yourself killed doing it." Rowan lowered his voice. "This stays clean, Mercer. No theories." No late-night heroics. The county's taking point. Eli studied him. County doesn't know these woods. Rowan's jaw flexed. That's exactly why they're involved. Silence stretched between them. Somewhere down the hall, a printer coughed to life. "Go home," Rowan said. "Get some rest. You look like hell." Eli wanted to argue. Wanted to push. But the look on Rowan's face stopped him. Not anger, not dismissal, but something closer to warning. Eli nodded once and left. He didn't go home. Instead, he drove north, past the school, past the frozen creek where kids used to skate before the ice grew unreliable. He parked outside the small medical center where they'd taken Mara Klein. Ash waited in the back, restless, nails ticking softly against plastic. "Stay," Eli said. Ash whined but obeyed. Inside, the hospital smelled like antiseptic and overheated air. A nurse at the desk glanced up. "I'm not here officially," Eli said quietly. "Just checking on a patient." The nurse hesitated, then sighed. "Room 3. 10 minutes." Mara lay pale against white sheets, for lines snaking into her arm. Her eyes were open this time, tracking the ceiling like it might collapse if she looked away. Eli stepped in softly. "Mara." Her head turned. The recognition was immediate and unsettling. "You came back," she said. "I said I would." "You didn't promise." Eli pulled a chair close to the bed. "Do you remember what happened?" Her lips pressed together. "Some of it." "Who did this to you?" She looked past him, toward the window where snow drifted lazily down. "He doesn't have a name," she said. "Not one he uses." "Does he live here?" A pause. "Too long." "He lives where he's needed." Eli swallowed. "Mara, people don't survive 14 months in the woods without help." Her eyes slid back to him, sharp now. "I didn't survive alone." Something about the way she said it sent a chill through him. "Who helped you?" Eli asked. She smiled faintly. It didn't reach her eyes. "The town did. In its way." Before Eli could respond, the door opened. Rowan Pike filled the doorway. "That'll be enough," Rowan said. Mara's expression closed instantly. She turned her face to the wall. Eli stood. "She was talking." "I know," Rowan replied. "And that's enough for today." Eli lowered his voice. "Why are you shutting this down?" Rowan stepped closer. "Because if you pull at the wrong thread in a place like this, you don't just unravel the truth. You take people with it. People are already dead." Rowan's eyes hardened. "Go home, Eli." For the first time since joining the force, Eli didn't move when ordered. Rowan leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't about justice. It's about containment." Eli felt a cold realization settle in. "You know something." Rowan straightened. "Go home." Eli left without another word. That night, the scream returned. Not from the woods this time. From Eli's dreams. He woke drenched in sweat, Ash barking sharply at the bedroom door. Outside, snow fell thick and soundless. Eli sat on the edge of the bed, heart racing, the echo of Mara's voice still ringing in his ears. The town did. In its way. Eli dressed and drove, no badge, no radio, back toward Old Mill Road. He didn't intend to go deep. Just far enough to see what daylight had hidden. Ash led him again, nose low, moving with grim purpose. The snow bore signs now that Eli recognized too well, tracks intentionally erased, branches snapped and reset, paths designed to look natural unless you knew what to see. Half a mile in, Ash stopped. Eli followed his gaze to a shape ahead, wooden, crooked, nearly swallowed by drifts. A hunting blind. Old. Unregistered. The kind locals built and forgot. Inside, Eli found remnants of life, canned food, blankets, a battery-powered radio tuned to nothing. And on the wall, carved into the wood with deliberate care, a series of tallies. Dozens of them. Eli counted twice. 47. His phone buzzed. Another text from the blocked number. "You were told to stop." Eli typed back with shaking thumbs. "Who are you?" The reply came instantly. Someone who kept you safe when you were too young to remember. Eli's breath caught. A memory surfaced unbidden, snow up to his knees, a man's voice calling his name, guiding him home after he'd wandered off the road as a child. Eli had always assumed it was his father. His father had died the year after. The hunting blind creaked softly as the wind shifted. Eli backed out slowly, dread pooling in his stomach. Back in town, he didn't go to the station. He went to the records office behind the library, the place where old things went to be forgotten. Hours passed as he dug through yellowed reports, missing persons files that never made the news. Patterns emerged, women who passed through, never quite belonging. Runaways. Drifters. Names that faded easily. All near Alder Ridge. All during winters. A shadow fell across the table. "You shouldn't be here," said a woman's voice. Eli looked up. Deputy Claire Henson stood there, arms crossed, expression torn between concern and something sharper. She'd joined the force a year before Eli, competent, quiet, observant. "Neither should you," Eli said. She pulled out a chair anyway. "Rowan's looking for you." "I figured." Claire's eyes dropped to the files. "You're poking at things that don't want to be poked." "You know," Eli said. She hesitated. That was all the confirmation he needed. "My brother disappeared here," she said finally. 8 years ago. Everyone said he left town. I stopped asking questions when I realized who didn't want answers." Eli leaned forward. "Who?" Claire met his gaze. "The people who benefit from quiet." "Rowan." Claire didn't answer. She stood instead. "Be careful, Eli. The snow covers tracks, but it also preserves." She left before he could stop her. The betrayal came 2 nights later. Eli returned to the woods with Ash, determined to document the blind before it vanished. They didn't make it far. Red and blue lights flared behind him. Rowan stepped out of his cruiser, face carved from stone. "You're done," Rowan said. Behind him, Claire stood stiffly, eyes avoiding Eli's. Eli's voice broke. "You told him." Claire whispered, "I'm sorry." Rowan moved closer. "You think you're the first to hear the screams and want answers? This town survives because we choose what to hear." "You let him do this," Eli said. "All of you." Rowan's gaze flicked briefly to the trees. "We let him contain it." A scream echoed then, close this time. Real. Mara's voice. From the woods. Ash exploded into motion, leash snapping free from Eli's grip. "Ash!" Eli shouted. The dog vanished into the trees. Eli ran after him, Rowan shouting behind, boots crunching, guns drawn. The scream cut off abruptly. When they reached the clearing, they found only snow, and a single set of footprints leading deeper into the forest. Barefoot. Ash's tracks cut a clean line through the snow, urgent, unhesitating. Eli followed at a run, lungs burning, every instinct screaming that he was already too late. Behind him, Rowan and the others fell back, their shouts swallowed by the trees. The woods closed in, branches clawing at Eli's jacket, the beam of his flashlight bouncing wildly as his breath tore from his chest in white bursts. "SH!" he yelled again. The forest answered with silence. Then, movement. Ash stood ahead in a narrow ravine, body rigid, teeth bared. At his feet lay Mara's coat, torn clean through the sleeve, half buried in red-speckled snow. "No," Eli whispered. He dropped to his knees, hands shaking as he gathered the fabric. It was still warm. A voice drifted down from the dark. "You always did follow the dog." Eli looked up. The man stood on the ridge above, lantern in hand. Tall, broad-shouldered, his beard threaded with gray. He wore a heavy coat Eli recognized instantly, oilskin, patched at the elbow. "Caleb Hart," Eli said hoarsely. Caleb smiled, slow and tired. "Most folks call me the Keeper." Eli's mind reeled. Caleb Hart had lived on the edge of town forever, fixing generators, guiding hunters, helping search parties when someone went missing. He'd been there when Eli was a child, lost in the snow. "You saved me," Eli said. "When I was 8. Caleb nodded. "I did." "Why?" Eli demanded. "Why her?" Why all of them? Caleb's smile faded. He lifted the lantern higher, illuminating the ravine behind him. Bodies. Not piled. Arranged. Wrapped carefully in tarps, marked with carved wooden tokens. Preserved by cold, by intention. They weren't meant to be hurt, Caleb said softly. They were meant to be kept. Eli's stomach turned. You kidnapped them. I rescued them, Caleb snapped, the first crack in his calm. From men who would have killed them. From winters that would have swallowed them whole. From lives already broken. You buried them alive, Eli said, voice shaking. Only the ones who screamed too loud, Caleb replied. Screams bring attention. Attention brings chaos. A scream echoed faintly then, not Mara's this time, but memory. Eli realized with sick clarity that Caleb had been the one calling for help all those years. Luring people. Testing them. The town knew, Eli said. Caleb shrugged. The town understood balance. One monster in the woods keeps others from coming. Eli heard footsteps behind him. Rowan emerged at the edge of the ravine, gun lowered. It had to be someone, Rowan said quietly. Someone who knew the land. Who could disappear. You let him murder them, Eli said. Rowan's eyes were wet. I let him keep the peace. A sob broke the silence. Mara staggered from behind a tree, bloodied but upright, a knife clutched in her hand. Ash stood protectively at her side, snarling. She was never meant to leave, Caleb said, anguish finally breaking through. She learned too much. Mara laughed, a raw, broken sound. You didn't save us. You erased us. She lunged. The shot rang out before Eli realized Rowan had fired. Caleb fell backward into the ravine, lantern shattering, darkness swallowing him. Silence followed, thick, absolute. Mara collapsed to her knees, Ash pressing against her as Eli rushed forward, catching her before she fell. It's over, Eli whispered, though he wasn't sure he believed it. The town didn't riot. Didn't mourn publicly. By spring, the woods were cordoned off, the bodies recovered quietly, the stories released carefully. Caleb Hart became a lone madman. Rowan Pike retired early. Claire transferred out of state. Eli stayed. Some nights, when the snow fell just right, he thought he heard voices in the woods, not screaming, not pleading. Just breathing. Remembering. Ash grew older, slower. Still, he watched the tree line with the same steady vigilance. One evening, Eli took him out to Old Mill Road. They stood at the edge of the forest as snow drifted down, soft and clean. You did good, Eli told him. Ash leaned into his leg, warm and solid. The woods stayed quiet. Not because they were empty, but because, finally, no one was listening for screams anymore.